Hey there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome, and thanks for joining me today. In today's video, we're gonna kind of do, again, sort of this merging of the classic rock and the blues world. We're gonna talk about the changes in the song Since I've Been Loving You by Led Zeppelin. Now, this is kind of an interesting song. Not only is it effectively a 12-bar blues, which is obviously very bluesy, and listening to it, I'm not sure that too many of us would say, oh, that's not a blues. You can kind of hear it, and it's very bluesy in nature. It's also got a substantial set of chord changes, and some of these chord changes very much kind of borrow what would normally be called jazz substitutions, believe it or not. There's some kind of interesting things that go on. So while fundamentally it's going to break down into sort of the traditional 1-4-5 12-bar blues, at the same time we're going to have some interesting other substitute chords that are going to come into play. I can't talk today. All right, so let's jump in. Key of C minor. Okay, so we are going to expect C minor as the 1 chord, F minor as the 4 chord, G minor as the 5 chord, assuming all chords are minor. And that's exactly what we have. And we have a standard quick change for the first 6 bars. So C minor, or C minor 7 I sometimes play. One quick thing I have to point out is that there is no guitar playing chords. At least on the intro to the song. Obviously there's a solo. We're going to talk a little bit about some soloing ideas. I'm sort of getting the chords from a combination of the bass and the keyboard. I'm basically looking at what those two players are doing and turning that into one chord that you could play on guitar. So keep that in mind. You're not going to hear a guitar playing C minor or C minor 7. But we're going to have 4 beats of C minor and then 1 bar, 4 beats of F minor. That's the quick change. 3, 4, C minor again, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. And now we're going to go down to our 4 chord, F minor 7, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, then back to our 1, but after those first 2 beats, down to the G minor. Okay, now this is not an uncommon thing. You hear a lot of people do this, and we're basically going sort of almost like a quick change. You know, a quick change is when we take the second bar of the first 4, right? The first 4 bars of a blues are the 1 chord. When we take that second bar and we go up to the 4, and then we come back in the 3rd bar, we call that a quick change. I don't know of a name for what we're doing here, but in bar 7, we have 2 beats of the C minor, 2 beats of the 5, the G minor, back to a full bar of the C minor. I hear it a lot. I just don't know if there's a name for that move. Sometimes you hear it even in say the 3rd bar. 1, 2, 3, and we do the quick change. 2, 3, and then in bar 3, we could do this again. He doesn't, but you could, right? 2, 3, and then we go down to the F minor 7 for the 2 bars. 1, 2, this is our 2nd bar, and here we do this move down to the 5 for the last half of the 1st bar, and then back to the C, 2. Now it's time, bar 9, to go to the 5 chord. No problem there. Instead of going straight to the 4 chord, we're going to use a really common substitution, which is go to the A flat first, the flatted 6. Why? Okay, well, F minor and A flat major are relative to one another. Right? In keys and pentatonic scales, the F minor pentatonic is the same as the A flat major pentatonic. Right? If you look at your first finger and your pinky in box 1, First finger is the minor key, pinky is the major key. They're always 3 frets apart. A and C, G and B flat, C sharp and E, B and D. It doesn't matter. Just put those fingers down like you're playing box 1. That's going to give you the minor and its relative major. It's not uncommon to do that with chords. You can even kind of tell that they sound very similar. If I play F minor, it sounds very similar, right? All of that's the same. A flat bass note, F bass note. The rest of it is all the same. Okay, so this is not an uncommon thing. So in our case, we've got the 5 chord for a bar. Then we go to the A flat, the substitute for the 4, then down to the 4. Now we expect to go to the 1, but instead of that, we're going to substitute to E flat. Okay, so instead of C minor, we're going to do its relative major, which is E flat. Okay, now you would think that we would do the same thing. Play that for 2 beats and then back down to the C minor for 2 beats. But instead, he turns it into a little walk down. Okay, so what we're going to do there is go E flat. And then he wanted to bring the bass note down 1 fret, which makes sense, to get to the C. Okay, well, a common thing to put in front of a minor chord is the 5 chord of that minor chord. So this is what's called a 5 of 1, or 5, right? We're kind of borrowing this chord. Okay, so we're doing E flat. We're gonna play a G7 chord, but we're gonna play D in the bass, not G. So that we get that bass movement. Then C minor. Then back to E flat. But now he's going to do something jazzy. Instead of playing just that relative, instead of C minor going to E flat, which is relative, he's going to turn it into E flat 7. Okay, and that's a jazzy thing. Jazz basically says you can just take a chord and make it dominant 7th and it's okay. But this is just kind of a cool little jazz move to do. What we're going to do then is move it down. So we're going to go to the 2. Okay, so you might, this is again, we're going to he's just going to kind of work his way down now. E flat 7 to D7, which is the 2 chord in this key, and C. Instead of going to the 5 chord for the last bar, which could be G minor or could be G7, he's going to do a 2, which is the D flat, or the D7, 1, 2, and then he's going to bring it down a half step, which actually turns into a D flat major 7. And that's the flat 5 substitute for the 5 chord. If you don't know what all this means, don't sweat it. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But there's the D, it's a D flat major 7. So basically my pinky, here's my D7, my pinky stays put while my other 2 fingers go down. And again, you actually hear that up here because the keyboard is playing it. And then that's the end of the set of changes. So I know that's a lot. Here we go. Let's go through the whole thing from the top. And I'm going to put it into the looper while I do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, F minor, 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to C minor, 2, 3, 4, 3. This is bar 4, 3, bar 5, F minor, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Back to the C minor. Down to the 5 of that, back to the C minor, 2, now to the 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, A flat, F minor, and here we go, it's E flat, G7 over D, C minor, E flat 7, D7, D flat major 7, right? And that's the whole set of changes. I got that in the looper while I was running through it there. So a lot of chords, a whole lot of stuff going on. Most of the first 8 bars is pretty straightforward, but that whole using relative major and minor chords, it's a great idea, super cool idea. And you do hear people do this in blues. This is not unique to this tune. Moving things down using that substitute 2-5 and stuff like that. That's definitely something that you occasionally hear. It creates kind of a cool half-step movement. If you take something like C7 blues, E flat, D, D flat, C, that's actually a bunch of substitutions for 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, which is again a common sort of jazzy blues turnaround idea. So it's very much steeped in a jazz tradition, even though it doesn't sound very jazzy at all, okay? So how would we want to improvise over that? And there's a lot of kind of cool stuff that's going on. So I'm gonna turn on a little bit of overdrive. Of course we can use, good old C minor pentatonic and blues. And if you don't know anything else, that's an excellent choice the whole way through. Okay, so what I would encourage you to do is record yourself or use a looper and play through the changes, and then just play the C minor blues scale over it and just kind of listen to the sound. It'll work the whole time. That's cool. However, kind of a cool little extra thing is because we have a minor 1, 4, and 5 chord, that lends itself, that's a traditional true minor sound. C minor, F minor, G minor. So we can use the traditional C natural minor, or sometimes called the C Aeolian mode. Or you can look at it as the E flat major scale. So from C at the 8th fret, if I go by frets, 8, 10, 11, 8, 10, 11, 8, 10, do a little shift, 7, 8, 10, shift back, 8, 9, 11, 8, and then if I use the full range of the position, 10, 11. Okay, so there's the root, there's the root. I have a couple more notes I can reach. That's what I mean by the full range of the position. By notes, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat, sorry, yeah, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. By fingering 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, little shift, 1, 2, 4, little shift back, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Everybody likes to remember things differently. So there's some fun things that you can do there. And what I would encourage you to do, if you listen to the original recording of that, you'll basically sort of hear him kind of go back and forth between sort of the modal approach and the pentatonic approach. So he'll play like a little kind of sweet modally type of thing, and then he'll play like a more traditional blues pentatonic lick, then a little modal kind of thing, and then a blues pentatonic lick. And one other little thing too is if you know your modes and you're kind of hip to the relative nature of modes, C Aeolian, like we're using, if you remember I did a video on the Dorian mode. Well, the F, the 4 chord, the F Dorian is the same as the C Aeolian. They are relative, they contain the same notes. So you can actually play both of those patterns. You can also play, if you know the E flat major scale, those are all the same thing. They contain all of the same notes. So if I actually turn on the track, so there's the C Aeolian pattern, E flat major, F Dorian pattern, So I'm using all of those patterns. But once it kind of gets to this point in the progression, where we start getting to all the weird chords, my suggestion is just go C minor blues. What's kind of cool again too is because, you know, it's a slow blues, so your tempo can very much ebb and flow with it. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun kind of little jam thing. So I really, I would encourage you to just play the chords, like I said, into your looper or whatever, and then, you know, you can just kind of noodle over it and just listen, because it's really fun and it's important, particularly when you're new to some of these things. To just listen to what those things sound like. Sometimes you just have to play the scale over different chords and just let your ear take time to sort of, you know, hear it and just grasp what's really going on, okay? So hopefully that's fun. It's a very cool set of changes. I hope you will learn it and make it your own. I've seen gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of versions of this song, like on tab sites and stuff, and I haven't seen very many that were correct. So do be careful. This is one of those ones that not everybody gets right by any stretch. And I believe the chord change is consistent, you know, through every pass. I didn't spend a whole lot of time listening to every pass to make sure they were all exactly the same, but they certainly seemed the same. And it's a little bit of a peculiar set of changes, so I'm not surprised that there would be some misunderstanding with that. But hopefully you will learn them, you can play them, you can have some fun with them. As always, if you have friends that would dig this video, please feel free to share it with them. I'm Griff Hellman from Blues Guitar Unleashed. I will talk to you soon. Take care.